This video is going to demonstrate how to create the Revolve #1 object as part of CAD problem set number 2. As you can see here, there are two pictures giving us the information that we need here. The picture on the left is going to be what the finished object looks like, essentially. The image on the right is a picture of the drawing or the sketch that we're going to use to create it. And there's going to be some information underneath here, as you can see, that I'm highlighting. I always recommend reading this information first if you're doing my problem sets. What this is going to tell you is that you should use the bottom, which would refer to this line here, as the axis for the revolve. So for every revolve, you need a profile and an axis. And essentially what it does is it takes the profile and it spins it around the axis to the number of degrees that you specify when you're using the tool. Also in our directions, it's saying we need to assign it a material of UHMW white, which is basically a plastic. It also gives us a volume that we should be close to. So if we build it per the specifications, we should be pretty darn close to this volume of cubic inches here. And being cubic inches, what does that tell us? That we're making it in inches as well. If this were cubic millimeters, then that would tell us that it's going to be millimeters. All right, I'm going to zoom in on the drawing so I can see all the information there, and then we'll get started creating the object. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a sketch. Doesn't really matter what plane I'm using at this point. I'm going to reference the origin, very similar to what I see in the drawing here. So I'm going to kind of put it in the bottom left of my workspace. And just going to start drawing what I see here, which if I kind of work left to right, I have a line, an arc, another line, arc, line, arc. Probably seeing a pattern here. A line, a line, a line, and one more going across. So I'm just very simply going to create that. And at this point, hopefully you should have enough knowledge to where you can kind of recognize that and kind of attack that problem in that fashion. Oops. Let's go back one there. So this looks like a chamfer, so that's true 45 degrees, and it's going to come down to this axis and come back to the origin. Okay, and there is a construction line. Now, hopefully at this point you know what construction lines are, but essentially I can take any of the sketch tools and turn on the construction button, which kind of looks like a red Y laying on its side in this program. What that allows me to do is use the sketch tools for geometry without having them impact my final feature. So now that I have the shape, I have two choices here. I can start putting in dimensions, or I can go in there and put all the given constraints in. Seeing that we have some tangents we need to put in, I'm probably going to do that first before I come back and do dimensions. So let me go down to this button on the bottom and turn on what I have, and then I will just insert what I'm missing, which looks like a tangent here. I've got two tangents there. That all looks good. I don't have a parallel here, but it does have a vertical, so it's probably acting like the same type of deal. So I'm going to go ahead and put in my dimensions now. So I usually recommend biggest to smallest. It's usually the best way to do it, I find. Now, we were on a much smaller scale creating, so at first this is going to get pretty large. But I'll just work my way around after this. Well, I take that back. I'll go biggest to smallest like I just said. Now, when it starts to get goofy like this and cross over, that's a good time to grab it and move it kind of where it's supposed to be. There we go. It's better. Let me get these rest of these dimensions in here. All right. Now, as you can see, we're actually getting pretty close to what we're supposed to end up with here. Just a few more things missing. Okay, I can put these degrees in for this angle on this chamfer. And according to the computer, I am fully constrained. So at this point, let's go ahead and move over to the 3D Model tab. We're going to use Revolve because that's the tool that we're practicing this time. Now, as you can see in blue, it automatically picks up the enclosed profile, but we have to tell it which axis we want. Now, if we refer back to the directions, it said to use the bottom, so that's what I'm going to do. All right, now we get this nice preview. It's one of the great things about this program. And this is a really good time to check and see if that's what it's supposed to look like. So let's come back over here. Yep, that looks pretty darn close. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK and go with that. Now you can see there's a slightly different shade of color because we are supposed to assign a material here of UMHW white. So if I go over to Tools and go to Materials Appearance, I can use this drop box, or I can click the buttons to assign a material. Let's see if I can read better here. There we go. Got some room now. Okay, UMHW is in alphabetical order, so it will be near the bottom. All right, did that apply? I believe it did, but I can check right here if I'm not sure. Yes, it applied, and this is the default appearance, which you can assign a material and then change the appearance, or you can just use the default. In this case, we're using the default because we're not told to do anything otherwise. Now, the last step, always make sure that your home screen is nice and clean. If there's any temporary features, make sure you turn those off. Any extra sketches, go ahead and delete those. But at this point, we can go down to File, Properties, and we can check our volume under the Physical tab. Click Update, and let's see here. Object should be within 5% of 69. So I'm actually slightly less than, but I am within 5%, so I am good to go. Now, if you want to ask the question of why was that a little bit different, I could go back and check all the dimensions. I think I got them right, but that would be the first thing I would check. Check all the dimensions for the exact numbers, and perhaps you got one of your decimal points off. Maybe you had one or two different constraints. Sometimes that can have a small impact as well. But that is the reason that there is some tolerance here, 5%. That's a reasonable tolerance. But if there's any really significant changes, you can probably see it if you look of, what physically looks different than the example. But as long as you're within that 5%, you're good in my book. Thanks for watching.